Oh, we don't need to do that one because Logan was an idiot, remember? So we're just gonna use that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're not gonna use.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Night of Kings, set in Abidjan's Maka prison, the aging Blackbeard, in an attempt to maintain control over his fellow inmates, resorts to a story ritual wherein one prisoner is forced to tell stories for an entire night. The young pickpocket he chooses relays the haunting tale of the Zama King.
Okay, so let's preface a couple things. Logan didn't see this movie because he's an idiot.
I saw some of this movie and then I
I
fell
can't
asleep.
believe you fell asleep in this.
And it's not because it's a bad movie. This
No.
movie
This
is
movie
great.
is so good.
No,
Like just
it's because I'm a piece of shit.
yeah. Which,
Yes.
we know. They know. We all
If they don't know now, they will. But yes.
So, this movie is in French, and it's made by an African filmmaker. We're gonna have to kind of spoil things, or else we're not gonna be able to talk about it, because it is a fantasy. And it's laid forth, like, in such a realist way that you don't know it's fantasy, and it took me so long to figure out, and I had to tell him before we watched it, because I knew
think-
he would like it.
I think that is vital information for enjoying this too, because I think if you go in expecting this to be as realistic as it looks, you will be confused for a really long time. So I think
Which
it's
is- I
best to
was.
go in knowing that this is a fantasy movie that is set in the real world. It's a really realistic fantasy. So also, getting into this prison is run by the inmates. It is not under the control of the wardens or the government or whatever. It is run by the inmates, and the inmate in charge, the head person, is they call him
Roman?
the storyteller.
Yeah.
And he tells stories to the prisoners, and he is the person in charge. He is like the king of this kingdom that is the prison, and everyone reports to him. So he is aging. He is on his way out. He is trying to abdicate his throne, and he is looking for a replacement, so war doesn't happen within this prison. If he is not in charge, war breaks out, and the prisoners would be killing themselves against each other in this prison. It would basically break the prison in two, and there would be no one in charge to stop anything.
And he's getting to the point where he needs to find somebody quick because he's on oxygen, he's weak.
He is dying,
People are
yeah.
conspiring against him, and so it needs to happen quickly.
Yeah. So he needs to find someone to replace him. So this new guy comes into the prison. He's a pickpocket, and he nominates him as the new future storyteller. They name him Roman, and
He nominates him in a more sadistic type way too. I would
he
say.
does. Yeah. Do we want to talk about the? Yeah, we're gonna have to. So, like we said, this is going to break the prison, and this will cause war, him not being there. So what he's doing is nominating this new guy that's coming in, who he does not think is a good storyteller. He doesn't know him. He
doesn't even speak.
Yeah, and he nominates him. You will be the storyteller. You will tell a story. The whole crux of this is he will become the new head of this as long as he tells the story through the night. He has to go from the night to the morning, and he will then be in charge. So he nominates this kid knowing that that's not going to happen. What the kid doesn't know is that if he does not succeed in telling the story all the way until morning, he will be killed. They will kill him, and he will not survive. So his intent was to nominate this kid who's not going to make it, so he can be sacrificed, and war will then break out, and it would, the prison would be broken. So that was the intent of all this.
So the kid has no idea, and the story starts, and he starts figuring out his voice, and then there's kind of like, oh, maybe he does have a chance, and so it's really cool. Once you figure out what in the sweet hell is going on, the story's awesome. I mean, and it looks great the entire time.
It is gorgeous.
But it's almost inaccessible at the beginning if you don't know. So I think it's
important to know this is a fantasy.
And what's nuts about this is based from some truth. So like this prison is real, and there is a storyteller at this prison in real life. They don't kill the person if they don't do that. Which, I mean, I would believe it if they told me they did, but they don't. Another thing that we need to talk about from the filmmaking standpoint is how beautiful it is. It's so gorgeous to look at.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I've ever seen a film that's come from Africa before I don't know that I have.
I'm sure. I just don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure we've seen something.
Yeah. But I mean, it is incredible.
It is so well shot. This is some of the best lighting I've seen probably in years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the lighting in this is incredible. It is so good. Every single shot. And it's not just like, oh, this scene looked really nice or this scene looks nice. The entire movie was so consistent and gorgeous. Like, every single shot was composed like perfectly. The lighting was perfect. The cinematography was perfect. All of the framing and everything going on in the scene and where things place, the actors blocking, like everything was perfect in this. It was so good, so well executed. It's one of the most well executed movies I've ever seen.
Well, and there's a lot of like chaotic things going on at once, like with the camera movement and with the prisoners and stuff, and it's done so well where you know what's happening at all times. Because and
it's all with intent too. Like, there's chaos happening, but that chaos is for a reason. It's saying something with how the scene is moving and how each shot is moving. The flow of it is on purpose and it's intentional.
But you can understand it. Like,
exactly.
It's not a Transformers movie where you don't know what's going on.
Exactly, yes. You can read it. You know what's happening.
But, so it's subdued for the most part. All the fantastical elements are until that it's not. And that's when the movie started to lose me a little bit. And I get, like, did you like that?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved that. Because, again, I was expecting it to be a fantasy because of what you said, so I think that probably helped in my opinion of it.
That is where I found out it was a fantasy. That's where I
I'm
got there.
sure.
I'm like, oh, okay.
But yeah, because it honestly a little bit reminded me of like an Arthurian legend, you know, because it very much, like I was comparing it, it very much seems like this is the king, this is his kingdom, there is tension in his kingdom and a war is about to break out. It really sounds like a sort of medieval Arthurian tale mixed with fantasy set in this prison in Africa.
And it really goes into like how powerful storytelling can be. And I think that's mostly what the film is about, is how a lot of things can be solved or discussed through storytelling, and how, I don't know, it's told in so many different ways, like through like what they're talking about and through the imagery and stuff like that. I think it's really cool, but like at its core, it is about how important storytelling is.
And it reinforces that a few ways, because it also shows when he is telling the story, this guy who's not confident in his storytelling at all, his ability to enrapture this crowd and pull them into this story. And they do this in several ways, one of which he's telling the story and the guys that are around him listening are then like pulled into the story. And they start doing like interpretive dance to enact what's happening in this story that he's telling them. So it's showing how even he is able to pull these people in and extend this night as much as he can. But yeah, those interpretive dance parts, I loved
awesome.
that. That was so cool.
I also think it's important, like, that it brings us in also. Like, I think we need to say that too. Like, it's in a different language, like it's in French, but we are also pulled in when all the characters are too. Like, and that's fascinating, because like, even though it's in a different language, it's a different culture, we can still like be fascinated with the story and we can relate to it and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's just a testament to its message, even, because we don't have to understand the language. We can just be reading the subtitles and still have that same effect.
But yeah, so this movie, I don't actually know that it's out yet. Let me see. Because you guys need to see it.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. Okay, yeah, you can rent it now. I don't think it was out when we saw it. It is on Prime Video, $5 rental. This movie needs your money.
Super worth it.
Yeah.
Super worth it.
But do you have anything else? You want to do scores?
I think I'd like to talk about at least the actual fantasy scenes, and how it pulls those and why. Because he's telling this story and trying to extend the night as long as he can. So his story keeps getting more and more ridiculous and out there and weird. So a lot of the fantasy elements come in those moments. So it's not right away that it starts going straight for the fantasy stuff. It's later in it that it starts actually pulling, and there's I don't want to spoil what that is, but there are some effects and actual fantasy elements that happen, and that comes later. So if you're watching this and thinking this isn't really that fantasy, it will be. It will happen.
Well, it threw me off because like it's this like realistic story, and like even the realistic part is still fantasy, and
it is,
in like a subdued way. But then it gets like anthropomorphic and like all this stuff, and I'm like, what? It just
what has happened?
threw me off.
Yeah.
So I think it will either work for you or not. When it gets to that, it wasn't my favorite choice, but I still loved the movie.
I loved that because it is something, it's a story that only could be told on film.
Yeah.
Like, this could not be anything else. This could not be a book. This could not be a video game. This could not be a television show. This had to be a film. This was specific to this, and it was perfect for that. It was so well executed. It could not be any other thing than what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, like we said, it's on Prime Video. You can rent it. I'm sure you can rent it on Vudu or Google Play or whatever. But I think everyone should see it. You should see
Definitely.
I should definitely finish it.
But yeah, so I think that this has, since it's such a new release, like even, I think it maybe came out at Sundance this year and not last year. But I think it's got a little bit of awards buzz for like the foreign film, and I wish that it would get nominated.
Yeah, I would hope so, because it deserves it.
It will 100% get an Indie Spirit nomination, but I wish it would crack the Oscars. But I think their shortlist already came out, so I don't know. But anyways, let's do scores. I gave it a 78.
I gave it a 95, and it is my favorite movie of the year so far. And honestly, it's going to be hard to get that topped.
I can't believe it topped Downfall's High for you. That's what really threw me off. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're very similar, and
They are, they are very similar. The acting, the cinematography, they're really close.
the only thing this movie was missing was Lil Huddy.
Oh, Jesus.
No one's ever said that.
That's true.
That's the first time that sentence has ever been spoken.
But our number is an 87. Watch it.
Definitely watch it.
Thank you. Oh, bye. I know. I'm cutting that.
Absolutely not.